Hi, this is James Gardiner, the CineTechGeek and also the principal at the Small Cinema Owners Association, and I'm here to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. And this year I've got a present for you. Yes, it's been a difficult time for us, and I wanted to contribute to the industry, to bring tools to the industry to help us navigate these difficult times and to make it more likely that specifically smaller cinemas can survive the new pressures and the new conditions that we're under due to the crisis going on. So what is this present and how can you possibly utilise it? Well, I've programmed most of the software for our little small cinema chain, and I'm going to be making some of these tools available for free to use by any cinema that who would like to take them on. And in today's video, I'm going to show you a quick overview of an early development version. It has a few things that work, but there's a lot of major features which are still to come earlier in the next year. So anyway, let's get into it, and I'll do a quick overview now, and people can find out where to give it a go, or give me some feedback on what they think and what sort of aspects or extra tools that they think we should or I should implement into it for you guys to hopefully utilize and become more productive in the way you run your cinema. More production or more productivity is the key to the economic prosperity for all our society. So that's what I'm hoping to bring everyone in the cinema industry with this tool. So let's have a look. So here we go. In this tool you'll see it's basically a web-based tool, and you install it on a Linux server, and it's got a basic script on how to install it onto that server that any decent IT person should be able to follow and install. And once it's installed and you type the IP address of the server in, you do a natural login with a login page, username admin, and it brings you to the base page, tells you statistics of what's going on. This is the development server. An example, it's actually running on a virtualized system. This system can run on a native or basic hardware, and allows you to ingest content from USB drives into the system, or you can virtualize it and put it on some sort of containerized system, which is typically I use it in both ways depending on how I need to install it into the cinema. But anyway, so your dashboard basically comes up with the last things ingested and the next things to be auto-deleted based on their age. The objective of the device is to basically be hands-off. It does everything automatically, and you only really log into it when there's a purpose or there's a cause or there's an issue. So it will automatically ingest things, age them automatically, and delete them automatically. So you shouldn't really ever have to do all of those processes by hand. The next thing I wanted to show you is a major feature still under development, is obviously monitoring all your screens. This will monitor any machine that it can talk to. At the moment, I think some of these screens are actually not active locations. That's a test screen doing nothing, and that's a machine that's off at the moment. And these are also some test screens. But as you can see here, it tells you what the current status of the playback is, the time code, the next event, the next machine, the next show to play. It's also got other things that keeps track of the times coming out. There's other features still to be integrated in terms of monitoring I/O devices, sound processors, and other bits and pieces, and also being able to monitor the audio. Currently, the Dolby one, you can go into the control side of it and control the projector. But that's coming for Q, GDC, and eventually Barco, if I can get access to a Barco projector. But as you can see here, it pretty much allows you to completely control a projector and monitor what it's doing if you want. The cameras will also come in a later release, where if you have some IP cameras, you can quickly push a button there and have a look at what's going on in the auditorium. So that's a really nice tool. It's probably it's done by a service agent. For service agents, it's probably a little bit more data than is shown in other tools I've seen in the market, but it's very useful. As you can see here, it also shows the markers on the timelines, so for example, where the credit marker, how far to the credit marker you are. It actually shows you here how long till the credit marker, etc., and all those sort of aspects, and there's like rollovers to tell you things, or if you want to jump into the projector, you just click on there and it will open to the projector control. The second tool which will come, I'll do some probably deeper videos on these tools when they're finished, will be, it's not finished yet, it will be more like a timeline tool which shows you each of the projectors what's scheduled on their timeline. That hasn't been started yet. Obviously, as it will suck in lots of content, you can go in here and have a look and search for assets on the machine. For example, you'll search for it by CPL. You click on the CPL, and below it tells you which CPL is actually containing, or which DCP contains that CPL, and it gives you a lot of data about that CPL if you want to look it up. So obviously here you can also do things, protect from auto delete. If you want to make sure that that particular content will not be deleted automatically, you can delete it, and other aspects. So realistically, what you're coming on here, this little solution can be used to bring lots of content into the system. Now, when into a sort of library management system. So when it comes in, another major feature of the tool, that everything that comes into your system will be QC'd, and in that report, in that wise, every time content comes into the system, it will email you about that content, tell you if it's good or bad, if there's any errors, and all the CPL data about it, and if there's any issues with it at all. So you can automatically, as content comes into your cinema, you get a report of if it's good or if it's bad, or if there's any issues, or if it's inconsistent in any way. So let's go back to the main tool. Okay, so obviously as content comes in, if it gets too full, it will automatically delete that content. But otherwise, if we go to ingest, typically you can ingest from devices like USB drives, or you can ingest from network sources. There's a manual on tells you how it all works. Everything that is ingested is made available via an FTP from the same server. Now you can actually define points to monitor for incoming content. So commonly, I'll go to a live machine. Let's go to this one. This may be on an older version, but it should still tell us what's going on. Now, if we go into ingest and we have a look at sources, you'll see this has got quite a lot of sources. It's got a deluxe box. It can ingest from one site to another. It can ingest from another cube wire box. And what happens here, the system actually monitors boxes, and for example here, it's telling it to check that device twice a day. And if it finds content that it hasn't ingested, it'll automatically re-ingest it into this main LMS, send you a report about the data and that it exists, and it's all certified and ready to go. This site, for example, likes the device. I support quite a few sites, and I give them my software for free, and they like this device because as content comes in, the agents don't really inform them very well, and they get mixed up, and the local staff aren't terribly on top of those sort of issues. So it will bring it all into here automatically and inform them that it exists on the LMS, or the catcher as I call it. And they find that very useful because they just need to go to one location to get all the content. And also it's a better suited machine for ingesting from multiple devices or from multiple servers from this particular machine, because it's actually, it's got a RAID subsystem, etc. Unlike the catcher devices from Deluxe, etc. It's just, a small little computer with one hard drive. If you try and ingest from two different screens onto the same box at the same time, it really can't deal with it very well. So that's the main thing here, is basically this is a device to automatically bring all the content into you, so you're not dealing with hard drives anymore and anything like that. It just all comes in automatically. It informs you when they're in. If the content comes in, if there's a problem, it informs you. You don't need to delete any content, it does it automatically. So it's pretty much an install and forget sort of scenario. Another tool here is the Auto KDM. Now, what this will do is basically you define, I'm not going to show you, but you define IMAP host of some sort, be it a Google email address or any email account, username, password, etc. And it will check that every hour. And if it finds a if it finds a KDM email in that, it will download it and automatically ingest it into the service. Now, how does that work? You come here and you configure the screens, and you basically configure a screen, the IP address of that screen, and its common name is defined in the certificate. And if that matches up, it just automatically pushes that into the server. I haven't ingested KDM for over 5 years because it just is totally automatic. This tool has been utilised with quite a lot of my software for quite some time. So really good if you don't want to think about KDMs anymore. There's a manual about it as well. If you wanted to get really funky, you can actually get a system to inject the KDMs directly into it as they come into the email system. So by the time Deluxe, for example, sends a KDM email, probably within 30 seconds to a minute, it's been pushed into your player. So if you're in an emergency, you need a KDM fast and it needs to get in there as fast as possible, it's been very useful for those sort of instances, especially when these automatic systems are more common, and people don't really know how to ingest KDMs manually anymore because it's such a rare event. So trying to make it as automated as possible actually is better, because that sort of knowledge is harder to have. If you're a small cinema, you don't have an IT centre looking after you and the cost of that. This can be very useful to try and automate that. Transfers. This tool actually is developed from my cinemas is also the base for how I actually transfer all the content from my cinemas around. Just so, as an example, I just wanted to show you this. For example, if you are an advertising agency or a small country who wants to do delivery of DCPs to your own cinemas in that sort of area, and you want a low-cost solution to do that, I do have a back-end system as well, which I'll show you here. This system is that I use. It's got quite a few other things in it, but one of the things is that it allows you to upload and ingest content into that system and program where it can go to. And here's an example where I'm clicking on the Cintel, which is a well-known bit of test content. It's got all the data about that content. You can preview it and all that sort of stuff. Generates these previews automatically. Video bitrate analysis, audio, all that sort of stuff. But the main thing we've got here is we've got distribution, and then I can basically say I want to send this file to a number of sites very quickly. So Clubmoive sites, which are my sites, all the sites with cinema in the name, I'll just turn them on, and I'll say apply matrix. And this DCP is now destined to be sent to that site over a very reliable HTTPS base. So it's encrypted. It's using it's actually sending the files over an open protocol that can't be blocked, because if you block HTTPS, you block the internet. So it can't be blocked because I've had problems in some parts of the world where certain ports will be blocked, or some file transfers won't work because the ISPs are very diligent in blocking those areas. And once you do that, you will find it'll take some minutes to actually get the data to start to stream back into the system. That we'll just leave this for now and keep going, and we can see it transferring later on. Now another tool that's coming out will be a playout audit tool. Now this tool is still under development, but it will analyze all your plays, and you'll be able to ask it what content is played out and when. The reason for this tool is because I've been asked to make it by a friend in India who wants something that can audit the playout of advertisements and be sent to the advertising agency so they can keep track. So I'm going to develop a tool here which will basically sync up every hour, and you can generate a report every hour, or once a day, or once a week, or you can get it to push that data into an endpoint of an advertiser and I'll put a protocol around it. So that'll be very useful for that sort of use. That's just your own user profile, all the configuration parameters, including the screens. There's a lot to be added to this area where I'm going to be adding devices so you can monitor not only the players but the projectors, IP cameras, sound processors, and other generic devices. That's going to be added to this at some stage. Probably once I've done all that, I'll probably put an auditing system in for the hardware so you can generate a report of all the hardware, and it will try and pull as much of the version or the firmware version as possible, so you get a list of all the hardware, what it is, and the firmware and all that hardware. This is an important time for that. For example, the Log4 shell or the log4j bug, where it was one of the biggest hacks on the internet. When a hack or a bug does appear in the DCI community's hardware set, knowing that you will be affected by that bug can be quite problematic if you don't know all the versions and firmware on your hardware. So I think a tool like that will be useful in the future. Admin users and other maintenance buttons for people who know what they're doing. Status, you can monitor the bandwidth of the incoming data. So if traffic's traveling around, if you're sending traffic to the players, or traffic's coming in from the network, it will give you an indication here, so you can monitor what's going on. Status, you can actually query for what's happening on the player. It logs a lot of stuff, and you can pretty much figure out what's been going on in the past. Lots of manual here for people to go over what's going on and what everything does. So yeah, that's the main crux of the software. And so yeah, so that's going to be, you can get to the GitHub page. I'll put a link under the description in YouTube. Get to the GitHub page, which goes over how to install it onto a computer. Like I said before, it needs to be onto a Linux-based computer. It'll work, a lot of these tools listed work individually. You can get the tool because you only want to use one aspect of it, for example. Like if you want to audit your machines, you might just get it for that. If you wanted to monitor them all on a display to tell you the status of them all, you could get it for that. KDMs, if you just want it for the KDMs, you could just get it for that. It's really up to you. It's whatever works with you and your workflow in your cinema. I know everyone works a little bit differently, and this is just trying to be a very versatile tool that you could potentially make your cinema more efficient in the way it runs, more productive, and more likely to survive over these difficult times that we're in, and likely to be in for still quite a while longer. Anyway, good luck with your cinema. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and have a great New Year and a great 2022. Bye for now.